Hey, welcome into the morning buzz. I'm Laurence Holmes. Thanks so much for hanging out here. We appreciate everyone who is down with House of L, whether you're listening on Apple or Spotify, or if you're hanging out on the YouTube page. And you can subscribe to the YouTube page if you haven't already. That would be awesome. It doesn't cost you anything. I'm not trying to charge you anything for any of this content. I just need a space to do stuff. And if you wanted to be along for the ride, I am more than happy to have you along for the ride. So thanks to everyone who continues to subscribe. And we've been doing this now like 2 months, and seeing the growth from it has been really, really cool. And I thank you for that. I'm not going to hold you a long time today. I just want to talk about a couple of ideas that are going to seem like they're in conflict with each other, but in my mind, they're not. And it has to do with Caleb Williams and the development of Caleb Williams. I think there were a lot of people in the draft process, the Bears included, that gave you a false sense of what the reality of a rookie quarterback is. I think because all of the measurable stuff that Caleb Williams is able to do was kind of unprecedented. And because the way that we look at the draft now is completely different than how we used to look at it, there are more voices, I mean, like mine, like, right? Like I have a podcast. There are a bunch of other people who have podcasts too. I think the echo chamber of people telling you generational. And if you remember, I'm one of those people that push back on that hard. People talking about Patrick Mahomes, people talking about Andrew Luck. I think they do a disservice when the hyperbole is out of control. And that's what I think happened with Caleb Williams. I also think there are enough tantalizing things that he is capable of doing that you as a Bears fan should be excited on what the final product is or could be. But we kind of live in this space now where for some reason, you have to jump all the way to the end. You have to jump to the conclusion of this is the greatest thing that's ever happened because it's happening right now. And Bears fans have been so starved for something like this. You've been thinking about it for the last couple of years. You've been looking at Justin Fields and being like, well, he's not Caleb Williams, even though you never saw Caleb Williams play football. The people who were, to simplify it, the people who were defending Justin Fields, and like myself, and the idea of trading the number one pick and continuing to develop Fields, this is what we were talking about. We were talking about the idea of it's rare that a rookie quarterback is going to be able to step in and lead a team that has playoff aspirations. It's not impossible, but there's not a lot of precedent for it. And with the CJ Stroud stuff like in people's head, by the way, have you been paying attention to what's happened to CJ Stroud? It took a while, but the league got a book on him. And now it's blitz him crazy and see if that offensive line can hold up. And it hasn't. They're still a 6-4 team, but they don't look right, and neither does he. That's the point. It takes a while. I think Caleb is still kind of recalibrating what NFL speed looks like versus what college speed looks like. And I think he's having a rough time. And I don't think he's been helped by the people who are coaching him, which, by the way, was my argument about Justin. And if you want to say that Caleb has a higher ceiling, I would probably agree with you. But I think that there can be so much damage done to a young quarterback if they end up in a bad situation. I haven't really finished my study on this because the data like continues to come in. But for me, I think situation right now, I think situation means more than pedigree or ability. if you end up in a bad situation, you can just be ruined. But I also want to say that I don't want the Bears as a team to give up on the 2024 season for the development of the quarterback, while also, and this is what I mean by like diametrically opposed ideas, while also trying to develop the quarterback for what could be more important beyond, Batman Beyond. I get that those veteran players that are in the locker room, especially on offense, are like, we want an opportunity to win. You guys told us that we were going to win, and it's not happening, and it's frustrating. And I do think that you're seeing people act out. I do think that you're hearing people speak out of turn and maybe say stuff that they wouldn't say about another quarterback or a veteran quarterback. I joke about it all the time. We were promised jetpacks. They were promised jetpacks. And because of that, those guys are probably getting a little antsy, and they see what was a good opportunity slip away. They've seen really great moments from Caleb, and they want those moments to be sustainable. Here's my message to you. And I know it's going to fall on deaf ears to some degree, but I'd like for you to keep this in mind. The next time that you end up in a place where there is a can't miss prospect or generational talent, take a breath and go and remember like what it looks like to play in the NFL or wherever. Like if it's one of the baseball teams, like how long have the White Sox been telling you about Colson Montgomery? Right? And how many Cubs prospects can't miss, and we're going to revolutionize everything and change the way that baseball is done. I'll never get over this. It is one of the most genius things that I've ever heard, and it's so simple. I tell the story often, so if you've heard it, I'm sorry. I was at the Hall of Fame enshrinement for Brian Urlacher. I was doing my radio show at Radio Row there. We were watching Johnny Manziel. Me and B-Mac were watching Johnny Manziel. And he had thrown a bunch of interceptions in the CFL. And we were talking about like how this guy went from where he was drafted to now failing in the CFL. Chris Carter, the wide receiver, the Hall of Famer, he walked by and he heard the conversation. And it was like it was out of a sitcom. He stopped, he turned to us, and he goes, "Football is hard. Football is hard. And when you're interdependent on all of the other factors like coaching or people that are blocking in front of you or the way that the offense is schemed up, all of that stuff, it's a lot harder to do at this level than at the level that Caleb Williams excelled at. We have seen Heisman Trophy quarterbacks bust out in the NFL. We have seen them not be as dominant. Some we saw them be dominant for a while, like Cam was dominant for a while, and then his body failed him. Tim Tebow, we saw what that looked like, and he won the Heisman. I work in a business where our job is to tease the next segment, right? To keep people in the jump rope, to make people continue to listen to what you have to say. I personally, this is my whole thing. I try not to over dramatize a tease. I try to call it straight and try to tell you that we think it's important that you should listen, but the bombast can get people in trouble. And I don't mean the people who do it, because they're at this point, you can pretty much just say what you want. There don't seem to be any consequences for any of this stuff. And I get that my point of view is a little bit conservative when it comes to this. I think that whenever we start talking about the draft, we have to be very careful in the language that we use. And people who cover the draft and cover the NFL should know better. It's not just going to be I promise you, as well as Jaden Daniels is playing, and I really like Jaden Daniels, he's going to have a dip in productivity too. They're going to figure him out too. So just keep all of that stuff in mind, okay? Do me that favor and keep that in mind. And Don't give up on Caleb. Don't. There's a quarterback in there. He just needs time to figure it out. So don't give up on him. I'll talk to you next time. Peace.